And we are live. What's YouTube? SCL030 representing JVS. This is our very own live discussion, spoiler filled, I might add, about the hit new horror It. Taken from the Stephen King's novel. This is an adaptation. A lot of you guys critically hit me because I said it was a remake from the TV series when really it was actually an adaptation based off the TV series and the book. So I have here a slew of other YouTubers and podcasters. I'm gonna let them introduce themselves to you guys. Hey, everybody.
What's going on? What's going on?
Hello.
What's going on? So who is who? Who are you guys?
Oh, okay. I guess I'll go. It's me, Mo Crosby from Earth 2 Comic Cast. You guys already know I've been here a couple times. So on Earth 2 Comic Cast, we talk comic books, we talk movies, we talk comic book movies, and we talk anything else that we feel like talking about at the time. We also do a podcast that's on Audio Mac. We moved from SoundCloud to Audio Mac, and the podcast is going. We've had Sam on the podcast. We've had Lucas on the podcast, and we're hoping that someday when Anna's not super busy, we can have her in the podcast.
Those times are coming up. I'm not going to be auditioning for any more musicals here until after the first of the year. So
Well, that's it, you guys. Earth 2 Comic Cast. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Audio Mac. Also on social media. We're always out there. We answer questions. We talk to you guys. So check us out.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Mo.
Thank you.
all right. I'm Anna Tazi Barbe. I'm on two different channels. I'm on one, Comic Books and Cocktails, with my best friend Danny Donovan. And I'm sorry if you hear noise from the side. It's my child who insists that she has to sit next to me and take up attention. So if you hear noises, that's her. Anyways. And my other channel, my personal channel, is Dolly Debauchery's Super Creepy Horror Show. On Comic Books and Cocktails, we talk more comic book based TV shows, movies, and everything. On Dolly Debauchery, that's my horror show because horror is my passion. So I talk horror movies, TV shows. I'm actually going to start, once I learn how to do everything, I'm going to, as far as recording the game, I'm going to be doing gameplay with different horror games as well. Okay, my daughter would like to say hi. Just come here. Come say hi very quickly so that you can go away. All right.
Hello.
So, comic books and kid tales.
Comic books, yes. My daughter also, occasionally, she will review a comic book that she's read for Comic Books and Kid Tales on Comic Books and Cocktails. I apologize. I needed to introduce her show as well. God forgive me. But yeah, so those are the two shows. I've been cranking out a lot of stuff on Dolly Debauchery here lately. Tomorrow we'll be filming a new episode of Comic Books and Cocktails as well.
Nice. Thank you so much for coming through, Anna.
Yes, thank you.
And last but not least, the new to the podcast and YouTube game, Lucas. What's going on, bro? Lucas?
Did we scare him away?
Did he leave? Oh, Lord.
We already scared him away?
I don't know what's going on. Mo, do you know anything about Lucas's podcast you can tell everybody about? Mo? Hello? Is it?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay.
Everybody's right.
I've listened to the Draw 4 Squadcast, and it's pretty live. It's pretty entertaining because they go and talk TV shows. They talk movies. Oh, he's back. Are you back, Lucas?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you
Yes,
now.
I can.
Oh my God.
For you.
Oh man, yeah. this has been the most interesting start to a podcast I've ever had. Joe. Well, name is Lou. I've been on Sam's podcasting, video, movie reviews, everything for about a year or so now. My podcast, my channel is Draw for the Podcast. We go over everything humanly possible: entertainment, sometimes sports, music. Everything you can think of, we talk about. Just a nice, fun podcast. Check it out, Draw for the Podcast on YouTube. And I don't know what else because I'm highly frustrated right now because this link is like playing with me. Like Pennywise is in here right now just fucking with me.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so without further ado, now we got introductions out of the way. Let's talk about this movie, It. Mo, you're a special case because I want to make sure I leave a disclaimer. Mo has not seen It, but he wanted to be a part of the discussion. Mo has his own personal reasons why he hasn't seen it yet. But I think he'll add some interest and nuance to his perspective on looking at it from the outside in. So I appreciate you, Mo, for being here and acknowledging that. I know for a fact Anna is a huge horror fan, and I know that Lucas is a huge movie fan. So, like, I'm interested to see where this is all going to come full circle, because I feel like I wasn't looking at this movie thinking it was going to be any good at all. Like, I knew that the kid from Stranger Things was going to be in it. I knew who, Bill Skarsgård. I saw the first image of him, and I was like, this looks creepy, but I feel like this is going to be kind of like this stupid kind of film. But I ended up really liking the film. So I'm really curious to see where all this perspective is going to go from you guys. So I think what would be really interesting to start would be Mo. Mo, from your perception, looking at what people have said about the film and looking at it from the outside in, what has been your feeling from the movie It, in your personal opinion?
Okay, so disclaimer aside, right? I love horror movies. I love horror movies. Let me say it one more time in case you guys didn't hear me. I absolutely love horror movies. But the thing is, I'm a little chlorophobic. Not a little, a lot.
What is chlorophobic?
I actually did a lesson on it on one of my last episodes.
Oh, and it all started from the original It movie, like not the movie, the TV special, whatever that was, the little TV miniseries. That's where it started from. It started from me not being able to, look under my bed and all that stuff. It really started from It. So I just told myself I wasn't going to see this movie, but I've seen the reception and I just hear everybody loving it. And on top of that, I heard it's going to break records. It's going to be the highest opening for a horror flick in September. So I kind of want to see it because I love movies, but then I'm just like, I can't bring myself to watch it because I don't like clowns. Again, it came from, hold on, you guys are laughing, but it all started from the original, the original miniseries, and it just kind of messed me up for life. I couldn't even watch American Horror Story this season because they have clowns on it. So it's something that I have to deal with, but I really want to see it because Sam has said it was hauntingly creepy. Lucas, Lucas is just Lucas, and he feels the way he feels about and I've actually watched Anna's channel, the doll. What was it?
Dolly Debauchery.
That I've actually watched that channel.
Cute.
I know that she's really into the genre, so I really love it. I mean, Lucas, we saw Annabelle Creation together. I was okay with that, and
you screamed.
It wasn't
no shade. No shade. We're gonna keep shade to a minimum. Come on, Lucas. Bring it back.
Jump scares in that film. I didn't like the first Annabelle at all. The second one was. It even scared me a few times, and I'm very kind of.
Exactly. There was a little jump scare in it, so I jumped the one time. That was it, and that's the end of that. But
the audio, I wasn't just talking about the jump. It's the audio that came out of you when you jumped. That was the key.
So I
shade to a minimum.
I love horror movies, but just because of the whole clown thing, I just can't see this movie. But I really would love to see it, but I can't. But my perspective will come from the early, the miniseries, the one people laugh at, the one people say is not that scary. But again, it's a clown in it, and it scared the heck out of me. Yeah, I was looking for that word. It scared the heck out of me, and it just. If it's not that, right, they're not remaking that. They're actually going into the book and adapting it.
They're doing it in chapters, so they're actually doing the entire childhood. If you remember with the miniseries, there was the combination of the childhood and the flashbacks.
Yes,
so they're doing it in chapters for this one. So they're doing the entire childhood, all the way from Georgie's disappearance, all the way up to when they make the pact of if it ever comes back, we're coming back to Derry and we're getting rid of it.
Yeah.
And so they're going with that angle.
And I like Skarsgård. I mean, he was pretty good in that Netflix show that was kind of stupid, but he was pretty good in it. So
hey, now the first season and a half was good, and then it went to crap.
Yeah, I was into it after the first season, and I was like, that's a very, very good way to show vampires and werewolves, and it just kind of just went somewhere else after all of that. But
yeah,
he does a wonderful job in this movie.
I just can't.
He did. He does a really interesting take on making it feel
visceral almost.
Out of body, visceral, like it felt alien. Like it really did feel very much so alien, as opposed to like, you know, this other hybrid kind of a clown with some kind of creature. Like every single moment, there was moments where he was kind of like drooling
because he was still
his
hungry.
eye would go somewhere else. And I don't want to sit there and paint any pictures for Mo, but I think that his performance really is one of the guiding things about it. But progressively as a film, it's not just about the clown. It's about these kids and the coming of age. Exactly.
That's what I appreciate about Stephen King is so much of his stuff, even though it's horror, it's coming of age too. So I mean, even the original miniseries, what I love about it so much is the friendship, the camaraderie. Yes, it's a horror film, but you get to see these kids coming together and building their losers club, and the losers club coming together to defeat this thing that's been around for centuries that no one else has ever been able to defeat. And they come together and they kick its butt. And I love that aspect of it too. I love the way Stephen King always writes that there's always that underlying innocence to his stuff. Even when it is horror and fear-inducing, there's that underlying kind of reality and innocence to it as well.
Yeah, I think that one of the misconceptions is I think a lot of people are thinking they're going to go into this movie just to be afraid. It very much so is a good guided story. Like if you're going to this movie just to be afraid or like extra gore or grotesque stuff, that's not this movie. There are jump scares. There are moments where you really feel like this feeling of frightfulness, but that's not what the movie is about. And I feel like you're going to be disappointed if you feel otherwise. But I know that people that, you know, are clown phobic or, you know, there's certain things that just kind of weirds them out. I can see them being very much so afraid of this, but I don't know. It's very different. It's just a decent movie. And that's where I want to feel like Lucas is going to come in to this full circle. Lucas, from your knowledge and understanding of film, how do you feel like this movie structurally worked for you or it didn't work for you personally?
Well, I've always felt, especially, I could go back to the miniseries a little bit. Like, this film feels a lot like a Steven Spielberg film. And I think because of the way people interpret the novel, that's the way it always comes across. The novel is still a lot darker than this film is, especially the relationships with the kids. It's a lot darker. It right now. Yep. Yeah, it's a lot darker than it is in the movie. But the movie plays up the Stranger Things audience and the resurgence of those 80s films.
I felt a Goonies, it definitely felt a Goonies-ness to this.
Exactly. Yes. It works so well. Like for this film, the weird part for me was the parts that were the weakest were the parts where they overly focused on Pennywise.
Yeah.
When you focus just exactly. When you focus just on the kids. When you just focus on the kids and their relationships and their singular scares with him, it really works well. I just felt it dropped off a little bit when they went way too much into the Pennywise parts of it. But I expect that because I kind of knew going into it, there's no way you're going to attempt to do this whole book in one movie. Exactly. It was always going to be two. Oh, yeah. So as a film, that's the way it structurally works. That's the reason why it made $117 million this weekend?
Just in the first weekend, I believe so, yep.
And that is part of the reason why, that nostalgic feeling that a lot of us who either read the novel or saw the miniseries, you just wanted to, it brings up a nice part of your childhood, except for Mo. Mo is terrified of clowns. But for everyone else, for everyone else, it brought up a nice part of your childhood to see this again. And I wasn't expecting
horror is a very, very solid part of my childhood. That's, I guess, I don't know if that's good or bad.
Anna, I don't know if we got separated at birth or something, Anna, but I freaking love horror movies. Like, I have to see every horror movie that ever comes out, no matter what it is.
I have a story about it actually on my channel. My dad, when I was like 3 years old, I'd be sitting behind the couch and he'd be babysitting, and when Dad's babysit, he was asleep on the couch, and I was sitting behind the couch watching whatever was on. I was born in '83, so I was born right around the time that all the really good ones were coming out. I remember then when he realized what I was doing and I'm watching these with him, he was like, oh well, she's seen them now. So I'd sit on the couch and watch Elvira with my dad, Tales from the Crypt. I'm in kindergarten watching Friday the 13th, and I'm just like, yes, this is awesome. And so my childhood was, that was, all the other kids are like My Little Pony, and I'm like, I'm gonna go watch Child's Play. And
oh man, just like me.
Yes. So, and I tell people, I'm like, I turned out okay. You know, I'm not in a psych ward. There are days when I probably should be, but that's because I have children. It has nothing to do with the fact that I've watched so many horror films. So, but yeah, I mean, horror is just it's a part of my life. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think that's actually a really interesting point. I'm gonna bring up this in another video a little bit later on, but this year specifically, the horror genre is actually just been on the rise. Like, I think it started off with Split, even though that Split's not technically considered a horror, but it can very much so take elements from that. Get Out, Annabelle Creation, and now this. I think that it's definitely on the rise. I mean, I did not care for Alien Covenant personally. I didn't like it at all, but I did hear good things about Life. I did hear good things about It Comes. I think It Comes at Night.
It Comes at Night, which is one of the best movies of this year. My God.
I've heard mixed reviews on it. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard mixed reviews on it.
You have to see it. You have to see it.
Yeah,
it's one of those visceral horror movies, not necessarily the jump scares. It reminded me of,
I've heard there's like a reality aspect almost to it. It's like,
yes.
What if this happened?
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I don't want to get sidetracked because I can do a whole discussion on that.
Yeah, we gotta keep it focused.
Honey, no, there's not time for it.
You can always skip what you're on.
But
sorry, let me mute myself for just a second. My child is. I'll be.
Okay.
Was it just you don't want to talk about it, Mo? Is that what it is? It's okay.
No, I can talk about it. I can talk about it all you want. I just my perspective, like I said, is always gonna come from the miniseries because that is where it all stopped for me. Like I told you guys, I love horror movies. Like I will watch I'm going to watch The Nun, and I'm going to watch the other one coming out next year, Insidious Chapter 4. I've seen all of them.
Yeah.
I just cannot go see a clown. I can't. Like,
well, I would say if you saw the miniseries, so you kind of saw this one because for people who, as Sam said, got mad at him for saying that this was a remake or reboot. I can't remember now the way Sam said people got upset. This is actually a remake of the miniseries, way more than it is a different adaptation of the book.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
You can see a lot of aspects from, I mean, like I was picking up on different things like, oh, you know, they're calling back to the, you know, they're paying homage to, which I appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge Tim Curry fan too, because I mean, my favorite evil role for him was when he was the devil in Legend. And I feel like he does evil really, really well. And even though the two Pennywises are so very different, still his original Pennywise, they do pay homage, you know, in a certain way to that.
His Pennywise is so much more creepy than this one is. This one kind of goes for the scary part of it.
Yeah.
But Tim Curry's was like super creepy.
Yeah, Tim Curry's was like the clown you invite to a birthday party. That's like, hey, you want to see me?
Yes. But then he's like, you know,
and then throw you into a van later on. Like that's his Pennywise, and that's why I hate clowns. I'm trying to tell you, they're so creepy. Nothing good about clowns.
So okay, let's refocus for a second. The reason why I brought that up because it's on the on-rise. What is it about this film and like the other films this year that have really kept it evolved as a genre, but kept like that nuance of making it a good story? Because I think that most horror films, they have really good platform story with good performances, definitely, but the story is a thing that kind of jogs you along. Like, I would rather see this again. Like, I'm going to go see it again today. But what is it about this film in connection to the other films that you would say that, you know, makes it so much better? I'm just curious from anybody that has that.
They're trying again. They're finally trying again. I feel like people who really love horror, people aren't just trying to make money on it anymore. They're actually trying again.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of that. My headphones.
They're going away from that whole campsite.
Yes.
Jock.
Literally campy horror films. They're going away from that.
They're going away from that. And it's very simple. And they're keeping the stories very simple and getting really good actors and leaning on their performances because Split leaned heavily on what's his name?
James McAvey.
Yes, that guy.
He was brilliant. I wasn't crazy about the film itself, but his performance
was just amazing.
Yes.
you go to now you bring in Annabelle Creations. Like again, the little girl, the girl in the wheelchair, like her performance was creepy as fuck. It was so creepy. Like a little girl doing that, like that scared me. Like I look at kids in wheelchairs and I'm like, I can't you. Like that's what I want to be able to look at people in real life and be like, wow, you look like you could be possessed, or and that's what these horror movies are doing. They're keeping it very simple and making these performances stand out. Like, and especially with Annabelle, like how it versus the first Annabelle, this one kind of kept the story very small. Like it was a very small story and it tied it in. Like instead of just saying, let's forget about the first. No, it made the first one relevant.
Yes, at the end I was like, oh my God.
Yes.
This is so cool. But yeah, the pacing was so much better with the second one. The first one, my issue was the pacing. It was like the story was all over the place.
And they try to make the first one like jump scare. Like again, they're going away from the whole jump scare. Like every minute jump scare, every minute jump scare. So it's more like, okay, let's actually make this story scary.
They're telling a story now.
If the story is actually scary, when you get to this moment, it'll the jump scare would actually be, it's like the payoff for that jump scare will be there.
It's not gratuitous. It's like, okay, this makes sense in the story. They're not just throwing this in here just because they think it needs to be in here.
Exactly.
Well, I'd say a lot of it has to do. I'm gonna say I don't consider Split at all a horror movie, not even remotely close to one. It is a nice dramatic thriller, but the horror movie resurgence for me started happening maybe in about 2012, 2011. It's when they decided that they wanted to pull back on the slasher horror films or the huge jump horror films, that they started making some of the best horror films possible. So like this is the box office finally catching up to what horror movie audiences already knew, which is a lot of these movies are becoming great. Like when I used to talk about my best movies at the end of the year, like Sam always gets on me because I never say this movie name right. The Babadook. Am I saying it right now? Babadook. Okay. Like to me, that was close to a pinnacle of a amazing dramatic horror movie, which you didn't see.
Yeah.
There's
in
some
the early
gems.
2000s. Yes.
Like on streaming networks, there are some real. I've seen some incredible films that have been made on streaming networks, but I feel like Blumhouse is one it's taken that kind of that, I guess, what those films kind of create, and it started to kind of bring them more back to the box office, more the psychological or the supernatural horror stories versus just torture stuff.
Like
exactly.
I'm not a big fan of. I've never been a big fan of the Saw films. I saw the first couple of them, and then I was like, okay, I get it. And that, for me, that was pretty much the end of that. I like the ones more that are like the supernatural, the stuff like that.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Like what Anna's saying is honestly on point. If you go into like the streaming sites, like a lot more streaming networks have better horror movies than we see in
much better.
Like there was one when I was a lot younger. There was one that was on not Xfinity, on Comcast cable. When it was Comcast cable, it was this one, I think it was FearNet or something of the sort.
FearNet! I miss FearNet.
Yes.
I miss FearNet so much.
Had the horror movies that you would actually want to see versus going to pay for $18, $12, $11 to go see ones in movies, and that endeared me to, like, I watch FearNet like almost every day. Like summer break would be me just sitting in front of the TV FearNet every day, and then my mom was like, "What's wrong with you?"
That was where I discovered the show Holliston, which is actually a comedy on FearNet, but it was created by guys who absolutely love horror. And that's a show I recommend y'all should go check out sometime. It's called Holliston. They only made 2 seasons of it, but yeah, I found that on FearNet. That's why I miss FearNet so much.
And so it's if you go back to those, I think what Hollywood is doing now, what the big box office is doing now, is trying to call back those guys and like, look, we saw what you guys were doing. Maybe we ignored you, but now we think this is where we need to go. And James Wan, like, you got to give it up to James Wan.
Yeah,
he has done, like, I want to say, as much as I hate what I'm going to say now, what Wes Craven did for the genre back then is what James Wan is subtly doing right now. Mm-hmm. And the fact is, he has his hand in almost every really, really good horror movie that we all see. So I mean, to be honest, I think the reason why he got Aquaman isn't because Well, isn't necessarily because of what he's done in the horror genre, or showing that he can make a universe or a movie that fits into a universe. Is more like, oh, because what he did with Fast 7. But they're also going back and saying, look, Aquaman it's kind of like, because we haven't explored the depths of the ocean all the way, it's probably scary down there. So James Wan can probably bring that to life, and that it's a little halvesies, but James gets like all the credit, most of the credit for what's coming up right now.
Yeah,
I would say he got Aquaman strictly off of the horror films.
Really?
Because remember, all of those horror films that you like, the Conjuring series, all of those are Warner Brother Productions.
true.
Yeah.
He was an in-house director for Warner Brothers. And when you show promise and the skill that he's shown with the Conjuring films, that's what made them say, we could give you a huge budget film. And those little nuances that you get in horror films, especially from good horror directors, plays awesome in action movies.
But he can do the big budget films. Like Fast 7 was a mid big budget movie, so he can do that. He's shown he can handle both. And I think,
but no one gets credit for Fast 7. No one. No one should ever get credit for that movie.
All right, stay on topic.
He's one that's going to put butts in seats because he's got a fan base from so many different genres of films that they're like, okay, well, I love him from this.
Exactly.
But let's see what he did for this. And of course, comic book fans, we're going to go see Aquaman. Aquaman's one of my favorites anyways. And so Jason Momoa is one of my favorites. So there's that. But it's a comic book based film too. And so we're going to go see it because, it's
Aquaman. Yeah.
It's our shot. We have to go, if we don't go see it, we don't get invited to the cool kids club, the cool comic book fans. When did we become the cool kids club? That's what I'm like. At what point was it like, I love it, but but yeah, I'm definitely gonna go see it, and I want to see what he's got to offer to it because I am so used to him in the horror genre, and so I do want to see what he can do with comic book genre as well.
Yeah, even like the treating of like the underwater aspect, like the unknown. Like there's certain parts of like how deep you can actually go. And there's like underwater creatures that we've never even seen before. We're finally just seeing. So from the scope standpoint, I think that he's definitely gonna take it and run with it. And like he's not gonna make it but so scared, but he's gonna make it like, wow, I can't imagine where this is gonna go next in the sequel. But there's another part that I've never done this before, so I'm gonna see how we're gonna kind of gauge it. I thought about 3 different specific movies that's come out in the past few years. I thought about the movie It Follows. I thought about the movie.
Oh my God.
That movie's awesome.
Afflicted and 10 Cloverfield Lane. So the reason why I brought all 3 of these up is all 3 of them, they have this different aspect of fear in the way that it's actually showcased for the audience's perception. So like Afflicted messed me freaking up because when I saw Afflicted, I didn't see any trailers. I didn't see anything. And then when it started to unfold and I'm brought into the immersion of what's happening, like there's this feeling of the unknown of like, oh my gosh, like I just feel levels of dread. It Follows is so smart and so culturally like fan received. Like there are some huge fans of this film. And it's like the fear side of that comes in more so like, what does it really mean? What does it symbolically really mean? And then we think about 10 Cloverfield Lane. It was just such a well-crafted film that came out of nowhere. Like we got one trailer one week, and then the next week the movie is out, and it just kind of came out of nowhere. So you got this feeling of like this expressive feeling of what's going to happen. And the reason why I bring that up is that I feel like the different parts of how scares or what scares people is really being reinvented by a lot of these directors. I think the director in this one pinpointed certain demographics of people for this movie, that he knew would scare. Like the jump scare people, definitely. But the aspect of the unknown, like the eeriness of the contortion nature of Pennywise in this film. And I bring that up is that I'm curious to see, what do you guys kind of see about the scare side of this? Like you have a scene that kind of like, exhibited that for you, like a scene that you're kind of like, wow, where did they get this from? Or wow, I pinpoint why this director did this. I'm just really curious from y'all's perspective. I know, Mo, it's a little bit harder for you, but I know you can add something into those 3 movies I brought up.
The contorted woman definitely and that Stan is scared of from the painting.
Oh man.
That contorted woman, that just, and I wonder if it's that same actor. He's I believe he's a Swedish actor. I'm not sure, but he's got that very long limbs, and I'm wondering if he's the one they have play the leper and the contorted woman, because like it's just she's. I remember that. That was I waited when I saw she wasn't in the painting. I was like, oh, you know, we're gonna have to. That's gonna happen. And I saw behind him with the pipe, and I was like, ugh. So that definitely, I loved that because that is something that dark rooms and stuff like that really they've always kind of had a. I've always kind of had a little bit. I still run really fast and grab whatever I need and run out, and so. That's definitely, I thought that was done brilliantly. And the way you just see her face, for, you know, they don't hold on her for very long. So it's enough to scare the crap out of you. And then you see the movement, like the movement of the little boy with no head too. I love that like disjointed kind of movement. That always creeps the crap out of me. And so I thought that was really well done, but also that's the kind of stuff that draws me in, but also gives me just the, you know.
Yeah. Like you just feel complete uncomfortability because you're like, what the heck is going on?
What did I just watch?
Yeah, there was a scene. I'll bring up mine. The scene that got me was when they were going through the slides. When they were just sitting there going through the slides of like what's happening in the film, and like who was it? Was it Richie? Richie was like, I think he said something online. You got to be a virgin, you know, to see this clown. Where the heck is he? You know. Then all of a sudden he's like, what the heck is that? And then the slides start throwing and going. It gets thrown to the ground, and then all of a sudden, like in the screen, he just pops out. And the way that they captured it, like it just takes the audience off guard. Like kind of like even when Beverly was in the bathroom, you know, fighting with her dad, and then she looks to her left and he's right there, and like you just don't expect it. Those two moments would stick with me for a minute, you know. But I thought them as really good scare tactics in the way they actually did it. Lucas, do you have any moments that kind of like you want to describe that probably affects the audience, not necessarily you, but
yeah, because I didn't scare me at all. But the library scene, when the new kid goes downstairs as he's following the little clues left for him, and you see someone at the top of the steps. I want to say it was the army man from the book he was reading, and the man starts chasing him. And it transforms into Pennywise. Perfect scene. Yep. If anyone was terrified of a clown, that's the scene they would leave a movie theater and be like, nope, not doing this no more.
It was the little boy, because if you were looking, he was reading that history book, and there was the little boy's head in the tree. That's who it was. It was the little boy whose head was
exactly. Oh my God, that was a great scene.
Well, another one of my favorite that kind of still sits with me, like I see it in my head, was when Bev looks up and she sees all the body parts and then you realize, too, and you see them floating. It's like they all float down here, and there they are, they're floating. But then when they started like coming back down, you see them in the background coming back down after they got rid of it. It's just like, are they going to tell their parents, oh, hey, we found all the body parts?
Exactly.
Dude, man.
Look, we found them. We were just playing.
I mean, like, what do you say after that? Like, honestly,
here's Georgie's arm. We found Georgie's arm.
There you go, Mom.
It's crazy because it makes so much more sense for You'll Float Too. Like the catch line for every meme or people making fun of whatever, like You'll Float Too. Like, even thinking about it, like, dang, all those body parts, all those missing kids, like, they are literally sitting there just floating. And it's weird because this is a huge spoiler. Like, it wasn't like a spider web. It was just floating.
Exactly, because that's right. Because in the miniseries, they were all like cocoon. Like, yes, I like it so much more the way they did it for this film.
They played up more in this film. They played up the connection to the other Stephen King books because the power that he has is the power from the Dark Tower, and that's the perfect connection between the two. Because Roland fights a lot of his enemies in the Dark Tower. Them and Pennywise have the exact same power. If you remember the Dark Tower film, the one that just came, the bad one that came out this year, when Jake is walking like through the desert land, you see the Ferris wheel and you see Pennywise's name on it.
Oh, see, I need to see it. I haven't seen it yet because I just heard awful reviews for it. So I was like, am I going to wait until it comes out? okay. See?
It's an awful movie, but I think they're playing way more to the connection of the supernatural powers and trying to get away from you thinking at the end he's a giant spider, like you saw at the end of the miniseries.
Yeah.
And they're exploring a lot more of his actual powers, which come, again, from the Dark Tower.
Yeah, because that was one of the things that was so...
fear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because Bev's not afraid of him, so that's why he just leaves Bev there floating and leaves her alive because she's gone. She's not scared anymore. She's like, screw this. I've been through enough.
Yeah.
I'm not scared of you.
Yeah.
Have you met my father? I'm not scared of you.
Yeah. And again, the movie, I think, plays that part well because that part is played well in the book of the reason why Pennywise goes after kids because they're a lot easier to scare than adults are. Mm-hmm. So he can feed off of their fear a lot better.
Yeah.
He said it's like extra salt on the meat when you're preparing your meal for the kids to be scared of him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It just makes it that much tastier.
Yeah. Kind of like, what was that Sin City, the Yellow Bastard? Like he has to hear his victim scream or yell before he does inflicts, whatever he does and kills them. It's crazy because I don't want to sit there and freak Mo out at the same time. Mo, you there?
He's like, I'm never gonna go see this movie now.
Mo put everybody on mute the moment you start talking about class.
Dang.
He's like, nope.
I'm sorry. But I mean, I guess I'll say this. I love the way that they put a stop to Pennywise versus the way they did it in the miniseries. Because in the miniseries, it was kind of just like, y'all, you got like 2 little silver bullets and like y'all gonna just like use like a slingshot. I was like, no, like she took a pipe and rammed it through his freaking head and then he pulled it out and kept going. But it was just like, I don't know.
I kept waiting for the battery acid though. So I kept waiting for it's bad, but he'll do that as an adult. But I thought he did it as a kid too. It's been a little while since I've seen the miniseries, but every time he take that inhaler out, I'd be like, battery acid. I know my husband's sitting next to me in the movie theater, like, would you just shut up? And I'm like, I go so far away. And he's like, would you just stop? And I'm like, what?
Yeah, because I think that it in the miniseries, it implied that he definitely did spray it because it was like a flashback before he did it again. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's like, okay, wait, I don't even know what actually is in inhaler. It's
all the placebo. So his is just like,
is it water? Mist?
Probably.
Like, so, I mean, it would be kind of unbelievable if water would be the thing that would, take him.
But in his mind, it's battery acid. And so,
You guys hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, we can hear you now, but we kind of thought you kind of pulled out, man.
No, I didn't pull out. I was saying that when Lucas was saying, like, he was like, if anyone is, like, scared of clowns, that's when the person will walk out in the theater. And I'm like, oh, that's me. I feel like he was personally talking to me right then. But, like, you guys...
So I know what I'm going to leave is at this point.
Well, that's not the case because I brought somebody with me who I think could be more scared of clowns than you.
He is.
And that's when he stood up and screamed and was like, no, what is he, damn it? What is he in the movie theater?
I had to ask my husband. I was like, are you sure you want to go see this with me? Because when we watched the first Insidious film, he left nail prints in my hand. I am married to the biggest baby on earth. I love him to death, but good Lord, he is scared of everything. And I asked him before he went in again, I was like, are you sure you want to go see this movie with me? You can stay out there in the lobby. I'll go watch it. It's okay. You can go watch like My Little Pony or whatever. he was a trooper, and he enjoyed it. So
but that's not fair with the first Insidious film, Anna, because the scene where the mom was sitting at the table talking about how the son had been possessed too, and a red demon face popped up. Yeah. Oh God!
Movie, I love that movie because it scared me, and I mean, like, I still can't tiptoe through the tulips. I hated the song before, but now when I hear it, I like just get the fingernails up my spine, like, I see that demon dancing next to Vitrola.
Oh my God! Yes.
Yes. Yep.
That's the reason why I watch horror movies first. Before going on dates to see them now.
You know when she's gonna
yeah, she can't hear me scream that loud ever again in life. No one will. No one will.
Yeah. But no, I'm listening to you guys talk about these scenes from this movie, and I'm like, crap, I want to see it because all of this sounds really good and really scary. But I'm like, can I even make it through like the opening of this movie? Can I make it through any part?
Well, I'm gonna say this to you, Mo. The fact is, I was able to, I guess, a week later, like do a whole 20-minute spoiler review about this movie, none of the images that I saw went out of my mind. Like, I don't remember anything that happened in Dark Tower. I could care less about Dark Tower. But, like, this movie stuck with me. So, like, if you know for a fact you got 2 nights, you got to go make sure you go to sleep. I don't know if I'd recommend doing it. I'm actually still debating whether or not my wife should watch this because, like, we're supposed to be seeing it today. And I'm like, she already got a lot on her plate, like, as opposed to, like, man, this image is still in my brain. Like, it will stick with you. That's one thing I can say, that the imagery and the immersion and the soundtrack, it just played perfectly to something that would stick with you. So from that point, I don't know if I'll do that. Other thing that it's a good segue is the adults. In the miniseries, there were only 2 adults that I was kind of like, oh man, y'all are some creeps. And it was definitely Beverly's dad. And then the old man that was sitting there watching Beverly getting like assaulted by like the bullies. Those are the only 2 people. But in this movie, all the adults, it's like, I don't know who actually did the review that I heard this at, but basically that Deary in and of themselves, like over the years, they've just been jaded. They've just been brought to this level of darkness. And they just are progressively just terrible adults. Like when she went to the drugstore and trying to help out the gang, and she was kind of like flirting with the guy, and he was kind of like lingering and looking at her.
I felt dirty after that scene.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I felt
extremely dirty.
Ugh.
I was like, she's a kid. What's wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? And so even when there was a moment where Henry Bowers, and some people have problems about the fact that Patrick and Henry, that they weren't kind of played up as much as they could have. I think it would have been over the top with Patrick. Henry, I thought they did perfectly because he did something very unpredictable with what happened with his dad. But even when he started to carve the H in Ben's stomach, I was like, I hate you. Because what is wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? Like, like normally you have these kid movies, the bully will just get just enough to do something, and then like somebody will stop it. No, he was doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, you're sick.
What happens to you when you grow up in Derry? Do you just become this heinous creature? Yeah.
He becomes, Henry is played much closer to the book than he is to the miniseries.
Yeah.
Even though in the book he goes killing his father. That's why I like that part when he killed his father, because that was in the book.
Yeah.
But it goes a lot further than that in the book. But I do like the way they attempted to put the miniseries and the book together to try to make it a little different from people who may have been watching the miniseries since they were kids.
Yeah, it's like a perfect hybrid.
Yeah, and it's like I've told everybody, I'm like, it's its own beast altogether, but there's a lot of callback. There's a lot of you do feel that nostalgia, because the 90s miniseries, it is a nostalgic film for a lot of us, and unless it completely ruined your life, I understand. But it's got that, seeing the callbacks in the film, it was cool to be like, okay, they're still paying homage to, they've got the book, they've definitely paid attention to the book, but they've also paid their respects to the original film as well, and they've made this perfectly pulled together beast here. And with that, I hate to duck out on you guys, but I got to get to the theater for Jesus Christ Superstar. Here I'm talking about horror films, and now I'm about to go do Jesus Christ Superstar musical.
Oh, that's so dope. I had a friend do that last year.
It's such a fun musical. But I am gonna have to duck out now. But I had a lot of fun, and if you plan to do another discussion, I would love. Oh, my daughter wants to say bye.
Bye.
Okay, go.
But yeah, and we might have a part 2 because there was a lot of people that just did not show up today, so we might have a part 2.
Okay. Well, I should. Okay, my daughter wants y'all to know she watched the original It, and
it was awesome.
She thought it was awesome. Her favorite movie is The Shining, so I'm
awesome.
I'm Mother of the Year over here. But anyways, with that, thank you guys for having the discussion. If there's a part 2, I would love to. If my schedule's not, it shouldn't be crazy, so I would love to be in part 2 as well.
Okay, definitely.
All right, thank you guys.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
So I guess what we can shift over to this was, I guess the people had different questions for us. This is going to be kind of hard because Mo hasn't seen it, and I don't know what you're gonna say about this, Lucas. So the first question, this is a shout out to Movies for Real. Movies for Real asked the question for the second part that's going to be about the adults, because Mo will go ahead and spoil it for you that they don't shift back and forth from the adults for them turning 27 years later. Like, this is just focused on the kids the entire time, which is great. But now the end of the movie ended with this is only part 1. So the part 2 is going to be taking place after the pact that they've made a pact that if he comes back 27 years later, then we will come back. The question is, for the second part, who would you want to star as some of the counterparts for part 2? I know it's going to be really hard for you, Mo, because you didn't see the performances.
Nope.
But Mo, I know Lucas, I know you got some, like, maybe some picks, maybe, or somebody you can think of.
Lucas always
that's hard because I would prefer not to go with anyone with any form of a name. You have to go close to no name or rarely seen for the adults to have the impact that you would want to see.
That makes sense.
It does.
Especially because right now they're playing it like when we were watching it and I saw that it was starting to focus only on the kids. By that point, it confirmed that I already thought it would be 2 parts, but that confirmed it for me, and it confirmed it that they're playing it a lot closer to the book. So if you're going to do that and you're going to try to age these kids up, man, you really have to be careful on who you cast for these roles.
No, that makes sense. Because the weird thing is, like, the role of Richie, right? When I was sitting there thinking about, like, an older Richie who's supposed to be kind of like the comedian, but at the same time, like, has some good range as an actor, I was thinking about Jason Bateman. Like, I legit was thinking in my head, like, Jason Bateman would be a really good
I hate his face.
For Richie.
I hate his face.
I know you do, but I'm talking about who has a range that has a capability of, I could see, like, this is what Richie would go towards, you know what I'm saying? But anybody like, like bringing like a Jake Gyllenhaal or somebody like really big, I agree with you. I don't think that it necessarily would work. I think that they could bring like maybe somebody for the girl Beverly. I don't know why I thought Scarlett Johansson, but maybe somebody just off the wall that you would.
I don't know why you thought about Scarlett Johansson out of all people.
Well, no. When you think about the character Beverly, the actress that plays Beverly, like she's got this hue, like kind of greenish hue, kind of like eye color. Definitely a ginger, got freckles, and I think that Scarlett Johansson, she definitely naturally has that same exact thing. So that's from a visual standpoint, that's the reason why I thought that. But when I think
the
about
hard part is going to be you got to look for more actors who can play their late 30s to early 40s, because that's that's the range that these will be in. And to me, at that point, you would look at television more than any film to try to cast some of those roles.
That's smart.
I mean, didn't they go television for, one of the kids from Stranger Things?
Yeah. He's the role of Richie. That's the reason why I thought of Jason Bateman.
If they did that again for, the actual movie itself.
Yeah.
But
that's a really, I haven't thrown much thought into the casting of the adults. I mean, that can be very interesting to see how they do that. And I'm pretty sure it's already cast at this point. There's no way you're going to do this. Yeah, I don't believe they knew it was going to be a sequel. It, for months now, has been tracking at about 50 mil opening weekend. At that point, they knew they were going to get the sequel. Pretty sure a studio would have in mind already the people that they're going after to play the adults in a movie.
That makes sense. Strategically wise, like, if you already have in mind, then you know how we're going to go and move forward with the production for the next stuff. Because I think that what they're going to still do, even though the next film will be focused on just their adult section, I think that there's going to be like these flashback callbacks of stuff that happened in between the time of the 27 years. Because what was the guy's name? One of the characters, one of the kids, they got traumatized after everything happened. Like, I think that they got locked in a house or something like that. And Pennywise messed them up so bad that when Pennywise came back and he called them and told them, like, he's back, he killed himself. I can't remember which character that was, but that point of time happened in between. So it leads me to believe that there's going to be moments where they'll still be able to use some of the cast for this, for like maybe flashback callbacks. But I hope they don't do too much of that.
No, it should focus and I believe it will focus mainly on the adults. You did a whole movie focus on the kids. There's no need to overly show them in the next part of the movie.
Yeah. So
I know that's a horrible answer, because if someone asks about the casting, I know they like, cool, we're gonna get names of people you would think, but man, this isn't. If they decide to go bigger with it, it's easier to try to pick actors out. But right now, this is television all the way.
Ooh, so shout out to Teddy Bisrat that's in the chat right now. He put up a name, Lauren Cohen. She plays the role in The Walking Dead, and of course she plays Martha in BVS. I could see that. I legit could see her. She has just enough range that I could see she could play that role well. I think what's the more interesting thing is, even more so than who they're going to cast, is how these characters are going to differ from what they did with the TV adaptation in connection to the book. I don't have any knowledge of the adults in the book, but how are they in the book versus the TV adaptation, Lucas?
I'm really, at this point, I'm trying to remember the TV adaptation and how the adults played. I would say they were a little bit more jaded in the book than they are in the TV adaptation.
Okay.
I mean, Michael tends to be the key character for me in the book. He was always the key character, but in the miniseries, he doesn't play that way. Who was it? Tim Raines that played? I forget the guy's name from Sister, the dad.
He brings everybody together, but they use Bill as the more platform leader. But he brought everybody together. He got stabbed. He got stabbed by Henry Bowers. And I don't know. It just kind of like he felt like he was the one that brought everybody together, but like his character didn't feel fulfilled to me. I was kind of like on the fence with Mike, where I was like, did Mike get like caught up beforehand and like he's being controlled? I really didn't know what they were going to do with him, and I don't even remember what they did with him at the end. But for some reason, they said at the very end that all of them lost their memories. Is that what happened?
Yes, because it's supposed to be a connection that all of them have as kids. So this is very interesting, because it's something that I know have been discussed a lot lately about Stephen King and this novel. Well, after the kids get rid of Pennywise, they start to try to go back through the sewer to get home, and they start getting lost because they lose their connections to each other. So at that point, Beverly tells them it's only one way for us to have a connection and keep it, and that's when you get the It orgy scene.
What?
This is why, this is why I'm telling you guys that whole thing scarred me. Like,
wait, what?
In the book, they all have sex with each other to help bring their connection back to each other.
Oh my gosh, I'm glad they didn't bring that into the movie.
They'll never show that in the movie, but it's
and then you have to now watch that stupid miniseries. Like, you're just done for life. You're just scarred. And that's where I am. And that's why but like, I'm not going to lie to you. Listening to you guys talk about it, I really want to say, but I do have a question though. So when you're done with the, the questions down in the chat, I'll just go ahead and throw mine out there. So don't worry about it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm only going to put one more out there. Let me see who's a good person. That's hilarious. Elizabeth Baradox said there was a guy in the theater when everything was completely dark who was in full Pennywise cosplay with the red balloon. Oh my gosh, dude!
I would fight him.
I bet you would.
I would fight him if he ever came around my vicinity, my area. We'd be fighting, because
let's be realistic. You're not fighting him.
Your fear will
not allow you to fight him. You will run. You get out that theater, but you're not gonna fight him. You just gonna get out that theater.
Yeah, if he lunges at you, I think you would probably run. I think if he just kind of stays there, maybe. You
I
react.
wouldn't even run. I'd just piss my pants and just like, he'd kill me. There's no, I would be frozen. I'm not gonna lie. If he lunged at me, I'd just freeze. That'd be it. That's how scared I am.
That's the worst thing humanly possible to do to people. Well, it's kind of reminiscent of when we went to go see The Conjuring 2, and after the movie, they had the girl dressed up as the nun and from The Conjuring 2, right after the credits going through the movie.
Wow. That's
Please,
messed up.
I want to know what happened. Like when people were walking out, like were they dying? Like,
Oh my God, it was so many people screaming. They didn't know what to do. It was hilarious to me.
Wow.
no, because the
So-
nun Conjuring 2 was like like she was scary, dude. Like I'm not even gonna lie, she had me like shook at some point. So yes, I can see that. Elizabeth asked another question. So do you want to ask this one, Sam, or it's in there?
I see it, but I want to go ahead and try to make sure I ask another question real quick because
cool.
This one's actually a really specific question for us. And I guess me and Luke is going to try to answer it. So the question comes from RP. I haven't seen the movie yet, so my question is, how are the jump scares in the movie? Are they cheap? Like, are they just loud noise? Do they work to build up? How many are there? My personal opinion, I'll let Lucas go after me. I think that it was just enough of them to get the general audience in enough, gateway for the movie. I think that towards the end, it definitely goes a little over the top. But one of the things that they didn't do bad was the sound. The soundtrack was great. And when there were moments where I was expecting one thing, it was completely silent. So when you look to the left or something comes out, like I wasn't ready for it. So I think they did a really good job in treatment of bringing jump scares back in a more tangent way, as opposed to kind of like this cheap way of just like, oh, jump scare, oh, you ain't doing any good sense. There was one moment though, my man Bill broke protocol. I was in the theater sitting there, like they were towards the end, and he was like, we all gotta stick together. All of a sudden, Georgie's like, come here, Bill, and like this man darts out, and I was like, really, Bill? And like if I was Richie, I would have been like, yo, forget him. Like this is on him, because it didn't make any good sense. But later on down the line, they came up with this really great dialogue sequence with Bill that broke down the trauma that he really felt. And that's one of the things the TV movie didn't really do. It didn't like break down to me like, okay, you seem scarred, you seem messed up, but I didn't really see it. And I don't really have a reference to it. They actually gave really good dialogue for Bill to make me understand how and why, like, a kid would be so tormented by the fact that what happened to his brother. And even the way the brother got his freaking arm ripped off, like actually ripped off, I was like, oh Lord, that was crazy. So I don't know. What did you think about the jump scares in this one, Lucas?
I think when he said how many jump scares, I want to say maybe about 6 or 7.
Yeah,
maybe 7, about 7. And out of 7, 5 really work. The ones later on in the film don't really work. Those feel a little forced.
Yeah.
But the ones earlier, they, again, as Sam said, they played the soundtrack to the scares perfectly. So there was no like build up and then you get the jump. They were always out of the blue and something you wasn't expecting to see early in the film.
Yeah.
So I mean, they didn't play the scares like the traditional way of late that scares have been played. They played them kind of the way that the early 80s horror movies played jump scares, where the killer would just pop up and then you would get the change in the music instead of warning you ahead of time that something is about to happen.
Yeah.
All right. So let me just go ahead and throw this one out there. So versus, again, my whole reference for it is coming from the TV series. So based on that, let's just imagine that in some warped reality, I was gonna go see this movie. What am I? If I'm walking into it, what am I walking into? Like, am I walking? Like, I know you said it's a little different, or it's like Sam said, they might be paying like close homage to the actual miniseries versus the book. Like, is that what I'm looking at? Is that what I'm looking forward to? Or is there somewhere it's like, okay, so this is book. This is can I spot the differences, or is it going to be like, book is gonna be like this is you're watching the TV series or the miniseries pretty much.
It's a perfect hybrid. I said it kind of earlier before. They pick out what works for the general audience, not necessarily just those people that are avid book readers or avid lovers from the TV movie demographic. I think that you'll be able to notice when like, oh, this was different than the TV movie. And you'll notice when, oh, that was removed from the book for good reason. I think that's
Like
where you're going to
OG
kind of
film.
come out of it. I think that's where you're going to
it's not. The miniseries is a lot closer to this film than the book is.
Okay.
The scares are different.
They
The
are.
build-up of the characters are a lot different, but I think it plays the miniseries a lot more than it does the book at times.
So
It feels that way. It feels like a big budget horror film. So they did, as Sam said, more of a general audience approach to it instead of the horror movie approach to it.
Interesting. So it's pretty much like you said, a general audience, because the general audience again is probably going to be walking in like myself from the miniseries side of things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But it doesn't disgrace the book followers and lovers. Like,
It
and be like, oh wow, okay, I see what they did with that, But I think that if you are like, I guess if you go into it wanting the book and a direct adaptation of the book, I guess
You'll
could
be highly
a little
disappointed.
jaded. You might be really
highly disappointed.
I think you'd be, yeah. But
It's
I don't know.
kind of what oh, go ahead, Sam. I'm sorry.
No. I was just thinking to myself, like, from what I've read from the Cliff Notes, from what I've heard from people talking about the books, like there's some seriously demented and dark stuff in that book, and I'm kind of like, I don't want to see that necessarily in the movie theater. There's a movie that I saw called The Martyrs, where this chick had her skin peeled off of her while she was still alive, and I was like, it's happened to her, and then I think to her sister. I was like, I would never want to see this movie again. Like before that. It was like a pre-led up to that where she was just continuously tortured and like shaved, and I don't want to see something like that, but I guess there are some people out there that want to see that on film.
I would say this movie plays perfectly to everybody who loves comic books, who would get mad at me when I say I don't care about a comic book being faithful to the comic. I want a good movie.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the equivalent of the same exact thing. As a person who, I didn't read comics growing up, but I read nothing but books growing up. If I wanted something as faithful to the book, this film would not be it. This film would be a big disappointment for me in every way humanly possible. But you got to separate the two. You got to be like, no, I'm not looking for you to be as faithful to the book as I am for you to make a good movie.
Yeah.
This is what they did.
Okay, that makes sense. I can see that. But again, I'm not gonna see it, so don't worry about it. I just wanted to know. So.
Oh my
Watch it at home, man. Watch it at home. Do not try to watch it in the theater, not around other people. Watch it with yourself.
I still have to sleep at night, and I can't like.
Oh no! Watch it like 11:30 in the morning, and give yourself time, and make sure you have other things lined up to watch after it, so you can get those images out your head.
Yeah, or break it up. Like look at a certain section of it and then stop, and then kind of go back. I think that'll probably be your best bet.
I do every year when I watch Candyman. Every year when I watch Candyman, I make sure I watch it about 11 o'clock in the morning, and I make sure I got other things lined up during the rest of the course of the day, so those images do not stick in my head.
I noticed how you only said that twice. Good job, Lucas.
Huh?
I said I noticed how you said that twice. I said,
oh fuck
job.
Yeah! No.
I'll surprise. One day I'm gonna go watch this movie, and then I'm gonna do it. Don't worry, you guys will come to the channel and Mo watch this. Yeah, I will post the reviews everywhere, so you guys can see that I actually watched it. But till then, I'll just keep watching your reviews, and I'll watch, and I'll jump in on these discussions to hear about it more and more.
Like, respect, Mo, because you came up here, you know what I'm saying? You put your heart on the line, and like you still were a part of the discussion. So respect, bro. Respect.
Yeah, you let everybody know what your kryptonite was, which is like rule number 1, what you're not supposed to do.
Yeah. But I think we're gonna close out, you guys, because I know a lot of people got to get back to football. Other people got to
listen.
again.
It's a whole 30 minutes after football, man. Let's go.
So
Yeah, I got another 10 hours of football watching to do.
So definitely you guys, thanks for coming up. Mo, shout out to Mo, Lucas, shout out to Anna. I will try to make sure I put their, channel stuff in the description bar below. Anna and Lucas, I need your information so I can put that in the description bar below. Earth 2 Comic Cast is already up there, so definitely go to them. Try to subscribe to them. They got a lot of good content coming up. And if you like this, definitely leave a like, everybody that's been here, and definitely choose to subscribe because we will have a lot more discussions coming up in November. We got 2 Goliaths in Thor, Ragnarok, and Justice League. In December, we got Star Wars.
David and Goliath. You said that wrong. You said that wrong. It's okay.
You know what? I said it specifically 2 Goliaths because I knew you. I could have said 2 Titans. But then,
no Thor movie should ever be described as a Goliath. Come on, now. Come on. No, not a Thor movie.
Anyway, we're going to go. Keep it locked. JVS, we ain't going to stop. We'll talk to you guys a little bit later on. And hopefully you enjoyed this. We're going to come back for a part 2. Not just a part 2 for the part 2 movie, but we're going to have a part 2 discussion with more people. Peace, guys.
All right, folks.
Peace.